Hi, everyone, and welcome. We are so glad you could join us for today's webinar, eQMS, your path to lower costs and happier customers. I'm very excited to have John Robinson join us today. John is from Cree LED, where he is a QMS administrator. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
And my fellow coworker, Gautam Sundar, who is a principal consultant at ETQ. Welcome, Gautam.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And we're happy to have you both here. So, taking a quick look at the agenda for today, we will cover some of the hidden dangers of poor quality, the ripple effect that it can have across your organization. And then we'll touch on how a quality management system can help with setting standards to get those quality costs down. Then John will share how Cree LED transformed traditional manual quoting processes into a streamlined workflow where they improve their customers' experience while seeing an immediate cost savings. And Gautam has a few tips to share on best practices and continuous improvement. And then we'll do a quick wrap up, and there'll be plenty of time at the end to answer your questions. So don't be shy. Enter those questions into the chat. This time is for you, helping you to be a quality champion. All right. So I'd like to start off with just a quick poll question, just kind of get the pulse on what are some of the primary quality related costs within your organization. So when you're looking at quality issues, where does it seem to impact your organization the most? Is it in the product delays and rework, or are you seeing issues have an impact maybe in with the customer complaints or warranty claims that are coming in? Or is your organization experiencing extra operating costs such as inventory, too much, too little? Or perhaps it's brand reputation and lost opportunities where quality issues are the most visible. And maybe you aren't sure, and that's okay because we're all here to learn. So let's give it about another second and we'll see how everyone responds. All right, let's see. What are the results? So we've got, oh, okay, a tie. Production delays and rework. Oh, wait, am I reading this right? 26 and 26? Yes. And extra operating costs, inventory, scrap, and waste. All right. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate you sharing that with us, with the audience, and indulging me on that. That was very insightful. So, as we move on to the next slide, let's level set and define what are the poor cost of quality. So, according to our host, ASQ, it is the cost associated with providing poor quality products or services. So, looking at it this way, it's the total of the financial losses incurred by an organization due to errors or substantial work. So, what does this mean? Let's chip away at this. What exactly are these costs? So, let's think about it with the classic iceberg image. I know it's very popular image. We've all seen it before, but it does such a good example of showing the difference between the visible cost and the hidden cost. So, those visible costs are very transparent to everyone from the C suite to the shareholders, your customers, and the public. And this is through 10K reports, balance sheets, and cash flow statements. So people can see how your inventories are trending and so forth. But where the danger lurks is below the surface. And that's what we are referring to as the hidden cost. So if you think about the hidden cost, do you know what that ripple effect is of a quality issue throughout your organization? Most folks don't. But let's think about this example. Do you know the impact when a non-conforming raw material holds up your production? So, do you order more material than is needed to compensate for this? Or do you deliver late to your customers? And if the product does make it to the market, is your reputation or certification at stake? And then what would this mean for future opportunities? Now, imagine all of these costs and issues accumulating over time because they're hidden. And this is where it really has an effect on your organization's bottom line. So, a general rule of thumb is that the cost of poor quality in a thriving company will be about 10 to 15% of operations. But for some organizations, especially larger ones, it can be as high as 40% of the total operations. And that's pretty significant. So if we move ahead to the next slide, excuse me, getting over a cold here, sorry. um, so now that we have the foundation for a better understanding of the cost of poor quality and what I just referred to, those hidden invisible costs, how do you, as a quality champion, begin to tackle this dilemma? Start with an electronic quality management system. It's a step in the right direction to help you get those costs down. When you have an eQMS, it provides a place for tracking everything we've mentioned and that you responded to in the poll question: the scrap, the waste, the rework, customer complaints, everything. It helps you to reduce the field failures and preserve and grow your brand. Now, just don't take our word for it. Talk to our customers. They've shared with us, by participating in a research project with a third party vendor, the value they received with a quality management system. So they've shared the actual savings that they received with using a QMS, and they specifically took a look at the cost of poor quality. And we heard from our customers that they saw real value when it came to bringing down those costs associated with a non-conforming material. So again, what we've been mentioning, waste, scrap, rework. And they reported back a 10% reduction in a field failure cost. So that is really significant. And this all leads to improving your bottom line and your brand reputation. And don't forget, you are preventing that creation of a hidden factory of the waste and inefficiencies. So you'll see some other data points highlighted here, and those are the other ROI drivers our customers shared with us. So again, these are real results that they received using a quality management system. All right, now I am excited to turn it over to John and Gautam. John will kick us off first. So John, take us away.
Sorry, I was muted there. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is John Robison, and I have been in the quality profession for around 40 years now. So I've held many positions, and the latest one I really enjoy is working for Cree LED, because now I'm able to take all that experience and put it into bringing all of the quality systems into an electronic database. So that's what we've been doing for the last 4 years at Cree LED. And kind of a company overview real quickly. Next slide. We were founded in 1987. Our headquarters is in Durham, North Carolina. We have around 1,500 patents, and we have 1,200 employees, some in Durham, North Carolina, and some in our manufacturing facility in Huizhou, China. Next slide. Our mission is to leverage the full resources of Cree LED and drive high-value LED solutions worldwide. And we strive to be the world's leading high-performance LED solutions providers. I'm sure you've all bought LEDs that work for about 2 weeks and then they stop working, and that's not ours. So next slide. So this is our quality policy. And in our quality policy, you can see the first bullet point there is providing innovative and technically superior products. So if you're not continuously improving, somebody else in your industry is. So maybe the next person has an all paper system, or maybe they have file cabinets and receiving inspection, but if you electronically motivate everybody to do this and do it properly with workflows, it's so much easier. And everybody, once they get used to it, they're like, wow, where has this been all of our life? So next slide. So these are the kind of the areas we're in: general lighting, horticulture, video screens. Yes, the ones in New York have our LEDs in them. Transportation, headlights, taillights, and then specialty, which is like lighting a building. I'm sure you've seen that, where a whole building lights up on the side. Next slide. So this is kind of a timeline, and you can see we've always been innovating, but in 1987, we figured out a way to commercially make LEDs, and we made the first blue LED in 1990. So yeah, everybody kind of follows us, and that's kind of our timeline there. Next. So we have X lamps, J series LEDs, high brightness. Those are the ones in the video screens. And then we just sell chips. So somebody wants a chip, we can give them a green LED chip they can incorporate in something. Next slide. So how do you shed a light on a problem? A long time ago, when I was working as a quality engineer, someone said to me, well, we've got a problem with this, and how are you going to solve it? And I said, well, let me do some investigation. So where do I go? I go out on the production line, and I talk to the people, and the people out there say, well, you know, if we could do this, this, and this, we could solve the problem. So you go to the people that are actually using the systems or actually have the problem, and then you find a way to solve the problem. Next slide. So that involves innovation, and innovation is the introduction of new ideas or methods to improve or create value. So if you're innovating, you are moving forward and your company is doing well. Next slide. So we had the sales department was having problems, and we decided that we would step in and give them a hand, because they are using the product the product spec module. So we're storing all of our data sheets, all of our drawings, everything is stored inside of ETQ, so it's instantly available. And so they said, is there anything you could do to help us with quoting? So they had looked at Salesforce, other software packages, and everything was just so complex. And they said, is there anything you can do? So I said, well, let me take a look at it. Tell me what you need. And 90% of what it was is they were missing things. So they were not filling in all the blanks. They didn't have all the information. They didn't involve quality. They didn't involve compliance. So now let's go to the next slide. We created a custom quote workflow, and now we have the management process tracking. We collaborate between departments. The customers get their quote back in half the time they were getting before. And now it's all data-driven decision-making. So this is not a typical quality function, except that if you miss opportunities, as you saw in the cost of poor quality in the beginning, you miss those opportunities, all of a sudden you're not selling as much. So you don't need quality if you can't sell your product. And this is a perfect fit for them. So let's go on to the next slide. So we looked at operational savings, because they had like 3 staff people were just monitoring all this and had spreadsheets, and they were trying to use SharePoint, and the SharePoint files were not available to everybody. There was access issues. It was just all over the map. So we decided, well, let's see what we can do. So we created a custom solution inside of ETQ with workflows, and we even fill in the forms from the fields that are in ETQ. So we actually drop the document, a Microsoft document, and you use the system to Office, and you plug that information right in. They have the quote. It's ready in half the time, and everybody is not believing how fast it is. So we've saved on track. Well, this was back in June, 50,000, but we're now well over 100,000, and we have closed 50% more quotes than we had in the previous year. And our ROI is already complete. So because our cost to start this up, we figured a hard cost was around $10,500, because We had the ability to create modules. We had the ability to do all of those things inside of ETQ, so we didn't have to go out and buy another software package. So next slide. So how do we deploy this? Well, what we did is we analyzed what they needed. We gave them in different slides. Then we deployed it into test. They kicked the tires. They ran it in parallel with several of their quotes they were doing. And then we went back and we reworked it until we got exactly what they wanted. And now the process is refined, and we've added a new subform filler that drives to create part numbers. At the same time, we're doing all the testing, the RoHS reach, all the testing for regulations and compliance. Next slide. So innovation is process optimization, and we're enhancing and customizing the user experience. And it's a data-driven decision-making. And now it gives us a competitive advantage and a market differentiation, because they know when they ask us for a quote, they're going to get it back within the time we tell them. If not, we actually come back to them and tell them why we can't give them to them, or why we can't do that particular business that way. We may be able to do it in another way. And all at the same time, our compliance and standardization is complete and ready to go. Next slide. So this is what the customer quote workflow looks like. This is a typical ETQ GUI. And what you see, on the top, and the close application, all of those things, and my views on the left, that's just a standard look. But the view that I created has a requisition number, and then we have a customer name in there. And we blocked that out because our legal department said we had to block that out. So sorry. Anyhow, the L2 description, it describes, what it is. Is it custom? Is it a standard material? And then who's it assigned to and what phase is it in? They never had this ability to be able to see what's actually going on. And so they can manage multiple quotes at the same time, where before they would get 4 or 5 quotes and they were overloaded. They just couldn't continue on. It was just very, very difficult for them. Okay, next. So this is more of the information. You kind of see the shipment terms, sales channel, anything that you could think of that they needed, it's all included in the form. That way, there's nothing left out. So when they're going down to the final quote process, they see everything. They see what the customer needs. They see what regulations are involved. Everything is covered, including quality. So now we have a say in all new quotes. So it's much, much better than it was before, because a lot of times we'd get it and they'd say, we have to send this quote out Friday, and it's, Thursday morning, and we haven't done anything to touch it or create any kind of a quality plan for this particular product. Next slide. So this is more of the form. So what you do is you actually create a form, and then you create a workflow. If you look at the top where the red ball is under L2 workflow, you see that is your progress along the workflow. So each step gets assigned to specific people, and we have groups of people that are programmed into that particular step. And once it goes to that step, those people take over the task and they roll with it. And if they don't, we have an escalation built in that if they don't do it in 2 days, then their boss gets a notice that they didn't finish the project that they were supposed to be working on. So it doesn't just lay there. So there's ability inside of ETQ to actually tickle people, or I always like to say we punch them in the chest and say, hey, come on, let's get this done. It's important, and it's how we survive as a business. Next slide. So that one was a good one for this year because it paid off. So we thought, well, what else can we do? Well, I was at the customer conference, not last year, but the year before, and we discussed, and that one was in September. So of course, with budgeting and everything, it sometimes takes a little while to get an additional feature. So it did take us a little while to get the additional feature, but ETQ has a feature called Depositor feature. So you can actually create a link that people can go into ETQ and they can drop off a file, or they can go in and fill out a form. And then that form can be routed inside of ETQ without anybody starting the form. It's started by either a customer, or it can be started by a supplier. It's unlimited what you can do with forms and routings inside of ETQ. But this particular one, we were spending money on a customer satisfaction survey, and we were spending money on a Dropbox, and it was costing us because it had some severe security issues because we didn't want any intellectual property to get out. And so we said, well, what can we do? So we created the customer satisfaction survey and the supplier document submission inside of ETQ. So let's go to the next slide. So this one describes what we did. Is we tried the encryption. We actually tried to break it. We tried to go in so we could go into ETQ and make it let us see other things inside of ETQ, or maybe hack it. Every time we got close, it would lock the browser and you would have to reboot your entire machine. And sometimes you had to clear the cache in your browser because it would actually lock your browser and you couldn't use your browser again. Actually, one time we tried it, we had to reinstall the browser. So the encryption was exactly perfect for what IT wanted, for be able to lock things down and make sure people couldn't do that. So now we can have suppliers drop off documents that have our engineering data, all of our specifications, without any fear of someone hacking into that, because we all know how secure emails are, and we all know how secure FTP sites are. So, this puts it at a whole different level, and it's cloud-based. It's accessible all over the world. So that's the beauty of it, is because of the accessibility being in a cloud. So we also integrated that with other QMS functions. So now we actually retrieve customer or supplier documents, like their ISO certification is up and things are moving along. And so we send them an email, and the email says your ISO cert is due to be resubmitted. Now they do a depositor feature. They resubmit it. They don't even need a password or a login. All they have to do is submit it, attach it. It gets routed to the supplier quality engineer. The supplier quality engineer moves it right into the supplier database. We're done. No email trail. And somebody said, well, I thought I got that. No, we know if we get it now. We don't have to worry about it. We know if we get it. And then the customer satisfaction survey, that was, we were using, I'm sure you've heard of SurveyMonkey. It's a good service, but it is expensive. And so we decided, well, let's see what we can do to solve that. So we actually were able to create a customer satisfaction survey inside of ETQ. So the next slide, sorry. So once again, we defined the goals, and then we created a mock-up, and we tried it in development, and then we promoted it to test. Then we had people try to break it, or they see what they liked about it, see what they hated about it. And then we created what we call, for our business, a perfect setup that works every time. So we go to the next one. We did the survey integration. Now it actually routes the surveys to the customer service manager and to the director of quality. So they all get to see every customer service survey that comes into our company. So it's pretty amazing. Next slide. So we are able to pull in stuff from our customer relationship system, Salesforce, and our ERP, which we use SAP now. We used to use Oracle, but either one works. There's no problem with integration with either one. And so we link those with our customer module. So we have a customer module built inside of ETQ, and that's what we use for customer requests, RMAs, all of those type of things. So once again, it's an entire system. Everything just integrates together so well. It makes doing things so much easier because you have all the other features built into the system. So then we tested it once again, tried to break it. We try to do everything to make sure it works. And then now our continuous improvement now is we're monitoring the customer feedback and we're monitoring the document submission. And we have taken our supplier document now to the next level. We are actually getting the compliance documents, but we've added an expiration date. So now when a RoHS or a REACH document expires, we actually send an email out to the supplier and tell the supplier to resubmit. And in that email, it has the link to the depositor feature so they can actually go out and bring that information into us without a login. Next slide. So we have this innovation deployed. Right now, Cree LED is a brand of Penguin Solutions, which is an AI systems provider. So we are owned by another company. But they have not adopted some of these things yet, but they've used the full document. They use the accident and safety because we have all of the environmental health and safety features built into ETQ also. So we're using that in 4 different countries and about 3,500 users worldwide. And yes, I manage all of that. One person. I'm an army of one. So it's pretty easy. It does keep me busy, but it's good. Next slide. So what's the strategic impact? Well, we had cost savings. I mean, sales and marketing, try to drive sales. But when the market is flat, we try to save money, and because every dollar we save goes back to the bottom line. So we saved $3,500 on SurveyMonkey and $15,000 on cloud storage and FTP file drop, plus the annual IT costs that they add on, which was maintenance and security, was about $8,000. So that was just on the depositor ones. So, and SurveyMonkey. So we've already paid for it because we created the modules inside of ETQ and we already have the platform. The GUI is the same. Nobody had to learn a new system. It's not like going from Microsoft 3.11 to Microsoft 11 and not understanding where you're going because you already have that platform ability built in with ETQ. Next slide. So this is our satisfaction survey. You can go to the next slide. That just kind of shows you a view. Once again, you see the same GUI. And now this is the form that when a customer would come in, they would see this form. We actually have it in Mandarin also. We put Mandarin in there because we have Chinese customers. So this is a dual purpose form and it goes out to all of the customers. And they fill them out and send them back. And it's relatively easy. It's not a problem. Next slide. I think there might be a little video on the next one. Yeah, this is a video. You can go ahead.
Brief demonstration of how our customer satisfaction survey system works in ETQ. So they would have a link in an email, and basically what they would do is they would click on that link and it would take them into a pre-form setting so they could change their time zone or language. That's all they can do. Click continue. Now they're inside of the ETQ survey so that we have created. So basically it's survey questions. They would answer the questions. And once they would be completed, they would click submit. But in this case, we're not going to create a document. We're just trying to show you how you can use ETQ for a different feature. Then it takes you out to a web page that you pre-designed.
Yeah, so once you're done, they're done, you can take them out to an ad you want, or maybe a thank you page on your web page. So you can keep them tied into you, which is I think is a great feature built into the depositor. Next slide.
Just a brief demonstration of how our customer satisfaction survey system works in ETQ.
Next slide there. Sorry. There we go. Now this is the supplier's compliance documents. So you can kind of see is a RoHS REACH. And then once it's created, we has a hidden field that you can't see right next to the created date. And that hidden field is the expiration date. And we built some scripting in there that actually looks at what document type it is. And then it says, okay, this document type is good for a year, it's good for 2 years, whatever the time frame is. And then once it does that, it grabs the supplier's name and email and sends them an email and says, please resubmit, your document has expired. And then all they have to do is it has the link in there. They click the link, drop the deposit off. We get it, it routes it. It's this very short routing, but it routes it at the top of the document. So we have a short workflow built into the system. Next slide. This is another demo. You can play it real quick.
This demonstrates how the supplier document submission works. Using the depositor feature in ETQ, you basically would come in here. This would be the link to actually log into ETQ without a password. So you click on that. It takes you to what I call just a page to go forward and fill out a form. So you hit continue, and now you're in here for compliance documents. This is what we use for suppliers to submit a compliance document. So they would fill it out. We're just doing tests right now. And we'll just pick something, and we don't even have to attach a file because it's not red asterisk, but we have it, and then there's a place to put comments. As soon as they click submit, it automatically logs you out of that particular form and takes you to a pre-designed location on the web. So we take them back to our location for that. So now it's a secure document depository. They don't have to worry about too large of a file for email. It'll take zip files. It'll take all kinds of files, even MP4s. So it's really very useful for us with suppliers.
Okay, next slide.
This demonstrates how the supply.
So what I always tell people is, you can bash systems, you can talk about them. Is any system perfect? No, but the power of ETQ is in your hands. It's in our hands, but it's in your hands because I'm talking to you, and you can make it whatever you want it to be. That's the beauty of this particular system, and it's really improved our ability to do a quality job with a minimum amount of staff. So it's really, really amazing. And things get done even when people are gone because you have the delegation feature built in. So it's already built into ETQ. You can delegate your tasks to someone else while you're on vacation or whatever. So that's it for me. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Yes.
Tough act to follow there. John is natural presenter, and so just a quick introduction about me. I'm Gautam Sundar, and I'm a principal consultant here at ETQ's Professional Services Department. And I wanted to talk about implementation best practices in the context of continuous improvement. Next slide, please. So 3 points that I didn't want to make it more ETQ related. I wanted to make it a little bit more general in terms of what we've learned from our experience with implementations. We have over 30 years of experience implementing this software and implementing quality systems. And so the 3 things that really it boils down to is involve your stakeholders early, the more you sweat in peace, and iterate rapidly. Next slide. So what does that mean? So when I say involve your stakeholders early, I'm talking about speak to process owners, but also end users. This allows you to kind of identify pains early in the process and even ask those difficult questions. Once you talk to your stakeholders, you're talking about all the pains they're experiencing, why they want to do something, and that's kind of going to lead you to your metrics for success, right? Which also brings me to how data migration should not be an afterthought. So as you can talk about what John just spoke about with his sales quoting uh, project that he had come across, where nobody was really talking to everybody. And so John, when you were implementing this, did you find a lot of help in trying to speak to all of the sales quality folks and maybe kind of identifying what your ROI was, your metrics for success were?
It was pretty easy because all of the stakeholders were invested. In other words, they
Right.
really wanted to change because they knew we had to get better. So
Right.
that's fine. You'll find somebody who really wants to get better, and when you find that person, you hang on to them because they'll really make the project much better, and it will actually fly then instead of just go along real slowly. So, but yes, that's we identified that early on,
Right.
and it was because the guy was thrown in his lap to improve the quote, and he
Right.
had a good success with me on something else using the
Right.
data sheets and ETQ. So he said, "Can you help me?" So
Mhm.
if you're always there for people, it really makes a difference.
Right. And in your slide, you also spoke about, like, your metrics of success, which were you're looking at a specific ROI as well that you were expecting to see, and that it kind of like really blew past that ROI, right? Like that you were expecting to see on the effort that you were putting into it, and then seeing that turnaround time as well, right?
Right, exactly. We would take what we measured was how many people that we had to we hired actually temporary people to help with the quote process because we had so many quotes, and we were able to let all those temporary people go because we were able to handle it with the engineers, the marketing people using the ETQ system. So we knew what we had to do, and it was on time because we had
Right.
all the time frames built in the workflow. So it was amazing. It was almost too easy. I'll just say that.
I'm really happy to hear that. And so the next point that I really want to talk about, and this is probably where, like, I want to talk about the more you sweat in peace, right? Like, so there's a saying in the military that the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war, right? And what I really want to talk about here is spending adequate time designing the solution. I know, like, the moment I spoke to John about the depositor, like, I could see the cogs in his head turning, and so I think that the design process started early for John there. And so for you, John, like, when did that design process really hit the ground? Like, what did you really see come through there?
You talking about the depositor feature or?
Right. With depositor or even with the sales quoting.
Oh, well, we kind of went through. It was a little frustrating in the beginning because we went through multiple integrations. We would
Right.
iterations, not integrations. So we
Right.
would iterate, and then they would say, "Well, I don't really like that. Can we do this? Can we do that?" So I was taking fields in, putting fields out, and
Right.
then I finally said, "Hey, look, let's try this. So
Right.
let's put it in test. Let's try it with what you're doing right now
Hmm.
and see what happens." So they did.
Right.
Changes slowed down, and then they actually brought back fields that I had already put in that they asked
Right.
for again. And then we got to the point where now they're using it, and then they come to me and they say, "Hey, is there any way we could build something in where we could run another workflow at the same time to create the part numbers?" And I'm like,
Right.
yeah, I might be able to do that.
Yeah.
I already knew I could do it, but
Yeah.
you use a sub form, and you use that sub form and you route it with a workflow inside the system. And then there's a little blue button that they click to create part numbers, because not every quote is a winner.
Right.
But when we create part numbers, they have a little blue button which takes them right to that sub form. They fill out the sub form. It has its own routing, and it runs at the same time you're running the main quote. So it's pretty amazing, and they're like, "Wow."
Yeah, I can imagine. And again, that's asking the questions and fleshing that process out, right? Like, you know,
Exactly.
it kind of touches the right point there. And so spending that time designing the solution, testing those assumptions, and really, like, you know, in John's case, like, you know, reducing the scope initially, right? Like just reducing the scope to see, hey, let's start off with what you're doing right now, and then
Right.
building on that, right?
Yes.
So with that, like, you know, you kind of have a smoother rollout. So like in terms of a rollout, then, like, because of these steps that you took earlier on, did you see a specific like change in the, like, or see a lesser amount of issues when you actually went to prod with any of these implementations?
I think I saw minor changes. People would say things, but by doing it
Mhm.
in test and running it in parallel, everybody
Right,
was, we had ironed out almost everything. A couple of the things were maybe they wanted another step in the workflow,
right.
or maybe they wanted one more field in this one place. But overall, it was really smooth.
Hmm.
And you know, when the depositor feature hit, that was, you know, I already knew how to use the depositor feature when I saw it. You know, I said, "Oh yeah,
Right.
we got to have
Yeah.
that," because, but you know, to my to my knowledge, you know, I've had 40 years in quality, so I know what you need. So, you know, we needed customer satisfaction surveys to maintain our registration, and we are registered to IATF 16949, which is
Right.
automotive, and it's a
Right.
higher standard. So, you know, we have to have this, we have to have that. So, all of those things, I have to say, in the last, since we fully implemented in 21, we've had one finding in four actual registrar external audits. And
Fantastic.
everybody comes in and they look at the system and they're like, holy smoke. I mean, kappas are running there, everything is done, you know, and now
Right.
they see we're engaging. That was one of our continuous improvement projects, was the L2. Now we're engaging marketing and sales. That just doesn't happen. I mean, people don't do that. It's not in
That
quality. It's kind of the silo effect. You know, well, I'm
exactly.
marketing and you're quality, and you know, it's
You
fire and
stick to
water.
your lane and I'll stick to mine, right? Like, yeah.
That's right.
And
That's right.
that's, I think that's the best part about ETQ as a QMS as well. Like it tries to be that glue that binds all of these different
That's
processes
right.
together, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that kind of brings me to my next step, and you kind of spoke about this already with like rapidly iterating, right? Like making sure that you keep uh, the scope simple initially, and then adding complexity in iterations, right? Like, so you went over
Yeah.
multiple iterations, and then you kind of got actionable feedback before you
Right.
actually made those changes. So like, you know, like you said, like keeping something directly live in prod, and then kind
So
of iterating in the background there to kind of improve it and see how you can build up adoption, as well as like make the user experience a little better, right? Just based on their
yeah.
feedback, because they got to test it out, like literally do a test drive of a car. So
Yeah.
so those.
So it was a custom done, Gotham. You know, it was so it's never been made before. So
Right,
things that have never been made before. I think the secret that we had is we met twice a week,
right.
and in that twice a week, we would say, "What do you like? What don't you like?" And then they would come up and they would say that, and then I would go into dev. And while on the Teams meeting, I would change the form and I would bring the form up and I'd say, "Is this what you want?"
Hmm.
And
Right,
so it was instant feedback. And I think that's the secret, is you don't try to make this process a secret. You try to
right.
engage them and show them what you can do with that form or with that workflow. And that was how I believe it succeeded so quickly.
That's fantastic. And maybe this is my last question to you, right? Like before we hand it back to Jennifer, is
Okay.
when you added these individual features as well, did you perhaps see like changes in usage? Like was there like did it drive more adoption, or did you see it perhaps like having more people come back to you with saying that, hey, we want to do something like this as well? Like what kind of like
Yeah.
improvements did you see by iterating that rapidly, maybe?
Well, since the conference in June, I have 3 new projects inside of ETQ. So yes, they see success and then they say, well, we don't have to go out and buy a platform. We already have a platform. Some people tried to do it in SharePoint and then they crashed and burned, and SharePoint just didn't work for them. And so they came to me and they're like, can we do this? So I'm actually in the process of building, I don't know if you know what an MOC form is, management of change. Okay, so I'm doing an MOC custom app inside of ETQ. So
fantastic. Yeah.
So yes, yeah. So it's never ending. So there's always some kind of an idea, and I look forward to all of that, and I think it's important. Yes.
I mean, that's truly the continuous improvement, right? So
absolutely.
So fantastic. Always a pleasure talking to you, John, about this, and thank you so much for sharing that in the context of implementation best practices as well. I'll hand it back to Jennifer now.
All right. Thank you, John and Gautam. Really insightful information in there. I'm sure everyone got some great tips. So next slide, please. I'd just like to take a moment to share with you a little bit more about ETQ. You've been hearing John talk about us. So as I am sure you all are aware, there are a lot of phases in the eQMS journey. But no matter where you are in your journey, at ETQ, we are ready to help you. We have a comprehensive purpose-built eQMS, which John had mentioned, where you can reduce costs, streamline operations, and build compliance into your processes. And this all results in improved efficiency, time to market, sustainability, and most importantly, probably the bottom line results. We also offer a range of professional services, including managed services, to meet your needs at any stage of your quality journey. And as you can see on the slide here, with ETQ, you're in good company. We serve hundreds of customers across all shapes and sizes, across many industries, and we apply the learnings and best practices from all of the industries to provide a really unique value to all of our customers. And we've been doing it for over 30 years. We've been empowering quality champions just like you to use quality management as a catalyst for business success. And we also aim to be a trusted advisor. And we'd love to have the opportunity to share our expertise with you. And we are also a part of Hexagon, a global leader in sensor, software, and autonomous manufacturing solutions. All right, so thank you for letting me share a little bit more about ETQ with you. I saw a couple of questions coming in on the chat while the two of you were talking. And let's take a look and see what they are. Are you ready, John and Gautam? Okay. This one looks like it's for John. Could you please share the percentage of customers who have responded to the survey?
That's funny. I just ran the numbers last week. So we sent out over 800 actual emails using our email system. And we have a special email account that actually has the cree-led.com at the end. And so we have a 50% response rate, which we thought was pretty good. And then we had maybe 10% what I call bouncers, because they were not either not at that company anymore, or I think the new category I'm creating is companies have locked down their email servers, and they've created kind of a phishing finder is what I call it. And if it's not something they normally see, the name at the beginning, or if it goes to more than 10 people in the organization, then they block it completely. So but we were able to get around some of that, because we would then, once we found them, we would send them to the people individually, and then there was no problem. So they were able to respond. And I did attach, I'm big on doing video training, so I attached an MP4. So if there was any question what they had to do inside of it, so it was like a minute and a half MP4. So the customer satisfaction survey, they know exactly what to do in the email.
Nice, handy, the video. Okay, here's the question. It's kind of long, so I'll read it and
Okay.
then break it up. Um, this is a specific question about the demonstrated depositor process. Does the supplier control process that sends an email to the supplier when their certifications are about to expire also send reminders to the customers if they did not follow the link and upload a new certification by a predetermined deadline? That's the first question. So I'll let you answer that and then I'll go into the next one.
So the email to the supplier goes out from supply chain because at least our company, the supply chain likes to be the first level of contact to our suppliers. But it's kind of a synergy. So we have quality and the supply chain do it. They would send that information out to the supplier. And then once we have their data in the system, the escalation that I have built into to ETQ actually looks at the date they submitted it, and then it sends them an email. And if they don't respond to that email, it keeps sending it, believe it or not, for I have it set for 365 days. So it will escalate. Then if it hits what they call escalation level 3, because there's 3 levels, 1, 2, and 3. If it hits level 3, it actually, all of the suppliers we have a reports to in the system, and they report to their supplier quality engineer and their supply chain person. So if they haven't responded, then the escalation 3 goes to the supply chain and goes to the quality engineer. So it's not going to slip by. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
It's got too many people involved in the process, and ETQ allows you to automate that. So that's the beauty of it.
Great. And I think you kind of answered the second part of the question there.
Okay.
These emails automatically get sent to only the customer. They generated like a reminder alert to the customer certification that it's coming. Yeah. So I think you pretty much got that there. All right.
Yes.
Let's see, what else do we have? So looks like another one for you, John. How did Cree LED go about the process of defining quality and the value that it brings to your organization? Like for example, like what steps were taken by your company? Was it within finance or quality to work through the process?
Well, I think you would have to go back to the beginning of Cree LED, and they started with 5 scientists at North Carolina State University in Raleigh, North Carolina. And when they decided to start building LEDs, they said, we only want to build a quality product, and that's part of our quality policy. We want to build a quality product. We want our product to be of higher value and higher performance than anybody's in the product in the industry. And you saw that in our vision and our mission statement. So once we had that, we had a complete system inside of an old, what they call SharePoint integration program called ShareViz, which doesn't even exist now. And we had workflows in there and everything, but it was so cumbersome and data was lost. It was not scalable. Nobody could do that. So about, I think it was actually 7 years ago, I was on the committee that actually started searching for eQMSs, because what we had was not working. It was not good enough for what we were doing, because we had to get better, or we were just going to drown in data that we couldn't use. So we started looking, and we actually looked at 7 companies that provided us a full on-site demo, and ETQ won out of all of those because we asked them to create a custom application overnight. And they created a custom app, brought it in the morning. We tested it, and we signed the purchase order that day, because we knew if we could customize it a little bit, we would be able to work with it, and it would work for our system and our approach to quality. Because sometimes each company has their different flavor of how they do quality, but but our approach is different than any other company I've worked for. And our approach is always be right and always sell the best product you can. And if when in doubt, we throw it out. We're not going to take a chance, because a lot of our components, I mean, a lot of people sell things that are very high value. I mean, you take a power supply or something like that, you're talking hundreds of dollars. Some of our chips are 39 cents. So, you know, if you make 100,000 chips and you make 100,000 bad, what's the cost of that? Well, you got to replace the chips. Number one, cost of poor quality here. You lost the ability to sell that other 100,000 that you could make. So we can't take a chance. We have to do it right the first time. And that's what ETQ helps us do.
That's great. Thank you. And I think this is a nice follow-up question that came in here. How long did it take to implement the QMS in the beginning? And I think the second part of the question kind of got answered about is it customizable applications? Are the applications customizable? And do they come with preloaded modules? Maybe Gautam, you can pick up that one, but we'll let John maybe at first. How long did it take to implement it in the beginning?
Once again, you have to scope it out, and I think that's the key. You have to scope where you want to be and at what date you want to be there. There are foundational modules inside of ETQ, and what you have to have is you have to have the document module, you have to have Kappa, you have to have non-conforming material. You know, the basic modules is what I call them. But you always start with the documents, because that's where everything is in your documentation. So we implemented document control and product spec together, because once we got that document in, we did that in 30 days. And that was a full migration of documents and everything. And we actually, as time went on, we had built in what we call the automatic review. That's the other beautiful feature with document control. In ETQ, you have the document review dates. So we staggered the document review dates so they all got reviewed within 1 year, all of our documents. So then we built in the auto feature of system to office, which will take the data fields in ETQ, plug them right into the document. So your effective date matches in the system. You don't ever have any problem with effective date, revision, document number, all of that stuff you can auto feature right into the document. And we started that way, and that's just the building block. Once you build that block, then we went to customer requests, Kappas, NCMRs, and just kind of went that route. Now we're up to 36 modules. I mean, it's amazing. And we have 5 custom modules, but I think once you get the foundation built, I think that's the key, is building that foundation in the beginning and migrating your documents, and then looking back and saying, has everybody been trained on this? Do they know how to use it? Do they know how to create a document? Do they know how to pull the information out? And now with NXG, it's even much easier, because all of the PDF files, as soon as you click them, they auto load right on your screen, where before they would come in your download area and you would have to click it again to actually see the document. So, but that's another improvement that ETQ has brought to the table. So I hope that answers it.
Yeah, I think that answers the customizable part of it for sure. But you know, we have a variety of offerings. Again, they're based on application sets. But we do have an out-of-the-box application that you can adhere to, which if you, like John said, you can get started really quick on that. A variety of different ways that you can implement that with us. And again, build the foundation out before you build out the house. So foundational quality processes like document control, training, Kappas, change management. We really are big proponents of starting small and then building on top of that. And then eventually, one day you might be on a webinar just like John here, talking about the mansion that you built.
Exactly.
Well, that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you, John, for sharing your experience with everyone today. I think we've gotten really close to the end of the webinar here, less than a minute to go. So thanks
Okay.
everyone for joining. Thank you, John, for sharing your story. Thank you, Guadam, for the great tips and continuous improvement tips that people can use. So I hope everyone else have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
you.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.